Well, hello, Canadian Campaholic here on, I was going to say an exciting day, but it's not that exciting. It is early April now, and winter is, I think the worst of it is done. We've still got some cooler weather on and off and a little bit of snow here and there, but nothing too drastic. Very exciting. We've booked our first camping trip of the 2022 camping season. We actually scored a site at Pinery in one of the most popular parts of the park in May of all times. So I'll talk a little more about our camping plans for this year a little bit later on the channel. But the topic of today, just a little bit of an update for you. And also today I've decided I'm going to move the trailer off of our yard and back onto the driveway. Those of you that follow the channel probably saw the video back in December when we moved it onto the lawn. It has been an adventure having the camper on the lawn, that is for sure. Start off over here. Gracie, stop digging! That's the first problem. You ever get a Great Dane and you want to hide a body, they're a good tool for that because my God, they dig. But this entire area here, the grass died over the winter months. The drainage is very, very poor here. I'm sorry about the bits of garbage. We'll clean that up. I always wondered why the grass was really thick here, and now I know why. It's because the drainage is absolutely terrible. But over the course of the winter, our Great Dane running down off the deck, and you saw what she just did a moment ago, has destroyed this area. So one of the reasons I haven't moved the camper yet is because I've been waiting for this ground to get sufficiently dry and hard enough that the truck won't sink in. I guess I could have done it when the ground was frozen, but anyway, hindsight. Off topic, but I'll probably put a bunch of patio stones down here eventually. We've got some other work out here to do. The other thing that was interesting about having the camper here, talk about drainage. All of the properties here drain in that direction down towards a stream. And of course our driveway is raised up. And at one point in the winter months, the ground was frozen and we had a torrential rain. And of course the water couldn't go anywhere. So the trailer ended up sitting with water up to about here. And then it froze. It was minus 20 for like 2 months, minus 20 Celsius for like 2 months. And this whole trailer was just sitting on a big sheet of ice, which was a little concerning. I was worried about the tires. Not so much worried about the rest of the trailer, but that was definitely an interesting situation. So, but it has been great having the driveway open and being able to park the truck in the heated garage over the course of the winter. I can't tell you how great that's been. I guess the only downside to having the driveway free was you have to shovel it. Now where we live, down in Chatham, Kent, we don't get a huge amount of snow here, so I think there was only maybe 2 or 3 times when the snow was bad enough to really warrant having to shovel. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is reconnect the battery. Our camper has a power tongue jack. There is a manual override. I don't recommend using a manual override unless it's an emergency situation. It might not hurt it, but I don't know. I don't want to risk it. So I'm going to go inside the shop and get the battery and hook it up. And then we're going to get this thing hooked up to the truck and move it out back onto the laneway. So yes, it's been great having the truck in the garage. I guess that is the one thing I'll be a little bit sad about is by parking the camper in the laneway, the truck can't stay in the shop anymore and it'll be out on the driveway. But I'm optimistic. You know, it's April now. Warmer weather should hopefully be coming soon. We've had little bits of warm weather here and there, and then we can get all geared up for the camping season. The battery is in here on my bench, and let me see if I put a light on here. It is plugged into what is called an intelligent battery charger. Now this one wasn't super expensive. I got this at a retailer, Canadian retailer, a few years ago for like maybe 30 bucks. It's a 2 amp charger. But the reason I bought it is that it charges and maintains the battery. It's very important over the winter months that you don't keep the battery in the unit, that you bring it somewhere well vented. Don't do it in your house. I got a nice big shop, so that's okay. And keep it plugged in over the winter months. There are some schools of thought that say don't have the charger above the battery because certain batteries can discharge a little bit of gases as they're charging. Based on the style of battery that I have and in talking to the RV dealer, I don't think this one will ever vent gases, and I've never had any explosions. But look into that. If you're going to be setting up a charging arrangement, maybe have the battery up higher rather than the charger or whatever. But anyway, first things first is I'm going to disconnect the smart charger from the battery and then we're going to take the battery outside and reconnect it to the camper. All right, so we're going to hook the battery up. I may not leave it permanently hooked up for now because we're not probably going to be camping until middle of next month in May, but I definitely want to have it hooked up today. So I'm going to pop the top off the battery box here. I probably should have sprayed a little bit of WD-40 or water repellent, some sort, on the connections here. This is my little strap that I use to keep the lid of the battery box on when we're actually traveling. I'm just going to move these cables out of the way here, and then I'm going to get the battery set up inside the box here. Now on our particular battery, you've got your two main terminals that you could, clip your charging clips onto. And in this case, though, we've got two little nuts that allow us to connect the negative and positive cables. It's always a good idea to make sure that you've got the battery in the right way so that the cables are close to the connections that they need to be connected to. So I'm going to spin this around. My God, this thing is heavy. Put it back in the battery box the right way around. And much like we were saying back in the garage in the shop, you want to have the positive one connected first. So I'm going to take that nut off of there. I just know from the way the cover tends to work, likes to have it there. Just put the little nut on there just a little bit. A little top tip is to make sure that you position the battery box in the way that it's going to be. So see how there's like a what do you want to call it? I can't speak today. A section of the box that opens up more to give clearance for the cable. So take a look at where that's positioned and then position the cable so the box will fit properly. And once you know the cable's where you want it to be, then tighten down the nut. Just a little tip so that you're not having to redo your work. It's also a good idea, once you've got this connected, get yourself a little adjustable wrench and very carefully use that to tighten down the nut. It's not so critical for today because, again, I'm only hooking up the power for the sake of using the tongue jack. I'm just going to tighten that down a little bit, just snug it down. Another little tip I'll give you with this, if you're not used to working with 12-volt batteries, is just be very careful if you're ever spinning the wrench around that you don't accidentally make a connection between the positive and the negative terminal. It will arc out, spark, and you'll hurt yourself. So just be very, very careful when you're doing this. But anyway, I've got the positive connection first. Now I'm going to hook up the negative cable. Again, I'm going to be very careful that I don't accidentally put my arm across the terminals. That would be very bad news. And same thing again, position the cable in such a way that you know the box is going to fit. So same thing again, I happen to know that the outcropping or the opening or whatever, I can't think of a word to describe this big bump goes to the front, and I know the cable needs to kind of go in the front like that. Again, for today's purposes, I could probably just do this finger tight. You will get a little bit of a spark sometimes, like I just did there when you hook up the negative cable, because it's energizing the circuits within the trailer. I'm just going to tighten that a little bit, and again, be very careful as you're spinning the wrench around to tighten it that you don't accidentally spin too far and connect the two terminals together, for the reasons we mentioned earlier. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The trailer is successfully off the lawn. We got a little bit of damage here from the truck, but this area was trashed already, so we've got some work to do on the house. Once that's done, in a few months, we're going to put probably some flagstone or something down here, because this area is always very wet. You can see only a little bit of modest damage to the lawn itself. That'll all come back, and hopefully this area will now dry out and green up, and we'll get some grass going in here again. As I mentioned, we're probably not going to do our first trip until May. We're kind of changing things up this year. Those of you that follow the channel know that we've had to do a little bit of belt tightening financially, and we had to cut the season short last year. We ended in August, which was kind of frustrating. We normally camp till November. Had to be very cautious. I've had a bit of a side hustle that I've been doing as well to build up some cash, and we should be in pretty good shape this year. One of the things that we decided is, rather than being weekend warriors and camping on a Friday, coming home on a Sunday. We're going to do fewer trips this year and try to make the trips a little bit longer. That does mean fewer trips overall, but you know what? At least we'll get to camp. In terms of other things to do between now and our first trip, there's a lot of maintenance that I'm going to have to do on the camper. Nothing drastic. I'm going to check the tire pressures since it's been sitting on the lawn forever. At some point in the next few months, it is due to have the brakes and the bearings serviced. I won't do that myself. I've actually found a local dealer down here in Chatham, Kent, that we will be partnering with. This is very off topic, but to produce some trailer walkthrough videos for you. So we're going to be going out to that location sometime later this month and checking out some new rigs and giving you a tour. But I'll probably get them to do the maintenance on the brakes and the bearings. Maintenance that I will do is go around and anything to do with the hitch, to do with the coupler, to do with the corner stabilizers. It all needs to be oiled and greased. I'll probably just use WD-40 on the coupler and the pivot points for the weight distribution hitch. For the corner stabilizers or the steadies, I'll probably get a can of like that white lithium grease just to spray on the gear system in there, just to make sure that everything is working well. I've also got some black rust paint for steel, and there's a few areas on the frame. And then inside the trailer, it needs a good vacuum out. The floors need to be mopped. We need to do some spring cleaning in there. We also need to do a big inventory. There's a lot of bits and pieces that we take camping that were in the trailer, maybe in the house. And then just checking the seals. So, but I think, folks, what I'll do is I'll put together a separate video on those maintenance items rather than trying to put it all together here today. I think that'll do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you guys are managing to get some reservations booked and are all excited for the 2022 camping season. We'll talk to you later.